Welcome to the My Raggedy Herbs podcast. This podcast is for truth seekers, homesteaders, homemakers, and medicine makers who are eager to roll up their sleeves and learn how to make their relationship with God, their family, and their home their first priority. Now here's Lori Coates.
Most people think that their grandma is the best, and I am no different. My grandma was born in 1919 and spent most of her entire life caring for others. We were blessed to have her until she went home to Jesus at the blessed age of 98. She went to great lengths to ensure that our holidays were filled with delicious food, laughter, stories, and lots of love. I can remember being a child and crawling into our car with such excitement to go to her house for Thanksgiving. It was packed with enough stuff to stay for weeks, even though we were only going to be there for the weekend. On the way to her house, my parents, my sister, and I would all try to guess how many homemade pies she would have, and my dad and I would always argue over who was going to get the first piece of her famous egg custard pie. Her house always smelled just right, and it always seemed to be extra warm. Most generally, she would have a big stew ready upon our arrival, and the next day would be spent preparing the big meal. One of my favorite memories is when I would watch her take fresh sage leaves that had been carefully dried and crumble them to make the dressing. While rubbing the sage in the palm of her hands, she would always tell me the same story. She would say, "Lori, you know that great-grandma," which was her mother, always had a sage bush in her yard. When I was a little girl, I remember watching her pluck the good leaves, wash them under cool water, and carefully lay them out on a tea towel in the cellar to dry. When they were dry, she would place the whole leaves in a quart canning jar and store them down there for later use. Every third or fourth year, she would plant a new sage bush just to make sure that she always had one. Grandma loved the camphor smell of sage and would emphasize the fact that dressing is no good unless it has lots of fresh sage in it. I listened intently and learned. Little did I know that she was teaching me the benefits of gardening and the basics of herbalism. Common garden sage, Salvia officinalis, is one of the easiest perennial herbs to grow in Oklahoma. It is an evergreen, woody shrub that has grayish-green leaves and blooms with purplish flowers in the spring. It is a member of the mint family, even though most people don't relate the two together. Sage prefers to live in a sandy loam soil that drains well. It does not like to be soggy in soil, and it is extremely heat tolerant. It has no problem enduring our hot summers here in central Oklahoma. Sage is easy to integrate into your landscape and can be used as a native plant in pollinator-friendly gardens or a staple plant in more formal designs. One of the best things about common garden sage is that its leaves dry and store very well. Other varieties, such as Bergarten sage, grow well, but their leaves don't retain the camphor characteristic for very long after being dried. Sage is used as a culinary and medicinal herb, and it is one that we would not consider doing without. I am so thankful that I was taught about it growing up. As we reflect on the things that we are thankful for, I hope that you have been blessed with happy memories of your loved ones. Even though I know that my grandma loved us dearly, there is one whose love for us far surpasses anything that she could have ever demonstrated. But God demonstrated His own love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5:8. My dear friend, let me tell you that God loves you. He made you in His image, and He does care about what happens to you. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. John 3:16. Allow yourself to experience His love. Happy Thanksgiving.
The gardening information presented in this podcast is based on USDA Plant Hardiness Zone 7 for Central Oklahoma. Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The The information presented is based on our own research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or entity. For more information, please visit myraggedyherbs.com.